how is everyone doing this morning? I hope that your day is off to a wonderful, fantastic start. If it's your first time here, hi. My name is Carrington, not your first time here. Hi, welcome back. If you enjoy any and all things makeup related, as well as throwing in some book stuff here and there, definitely go ahead, hit that subscribe button, click the little bell to be notified of all my future uploads. Don't forget to go and follow me over on Instagram. I would love for you guys to go on over there. Watch this dumpster fire train as it goes over there as well. Choo choo. And let's go ahead and let's dive on into today's video, which is ranking the last 10 books that I've read. So I was doing this where like monthly I was talking about the books that I read. But sometimes I'd only read one or two in a month. And sometimes that's just how it is. Sometimes, depending on my work schedule, how work is going. Sometimes I have to work from like sun up to sundown to get like what I need to get at work. And so that's just how it is. So I don't have a lot of time to read. But there's also times like lately where I literally just plowed through 7 books in a week. Actually less than a week, in like 5 days. So yeah, that's just how it is. So I figured I would just start doing like ranking the last 10 books that I've read. I'm going to try not to give a ton of spoilers. So just be mindful of that. I'm going to try to not give like a ton of spoilers. I feel like one of the series I just kind of have to, but it also doesn't spoil all of it. So let's just dive on in. All right, so book number 10 is a part of a series. So I read a whole entire series. It had 7 books in the series called Raised by a Killer. And extreme horror. This whole series has a lot of like very gruesome, in-depth details. So just first and foremost, if you are not somebody that can handle that, you probably will not be able to handle this series. There is like child abuse and this animal abuse, just trigger warning, things like that in this book. I won't try to elaborate on things like that. But so last place is book number 4. Here's the thing. I thought this series could have been so much more than it was. And that's the part that sucks, is it could have been so much more than it was. So basically, this whole entire series is based upon this girl named Deicide in the book. And her father is a serial killer. And she is being raised by this serial killer so that a way she can continue on with killing people. Because they do source their meat, like that is their meat component. And so each book focuses on a specific age that she is. The first book starts at age 4, and then it goes on, and I think the last book is like age 20, I believe. So you've got some skipping, but it always focuses on like one specific age and kind of like what she's thinking, what she's feeling, what's going on around her, how is she rationalizing things, just like stuff like that. And I feel like we could have gone a whole different direction and it been amazing than what it really was. But anyway, so book number 4. The reason why this is probably dead last for me is because she's 17, she's tired of her dad, she's tired of having to deal with him. Her uncle gets released from prison, and she like really jives with him, has a relationship with him, which to her that just seems normal. I'm not really for sure why that seems normal, but it just does. And he takes her to this compound, which is a cult, a mass murdering cult, where one person is in charge, and they do like services where they like murder people up on stage in front of everybody, and they like drink the blood and stuff like that. And the guy just like falls in love with her, and she ends up like pregnant with his kid. And so it goes on into that. And here's the thing, it's just like, really, we're going to go to a cult. That's where we're going to go, where nobody is allowed to leave. They have to follow all of these rules. They cook meth. Like, that's where we're going with this. Like, we honestly could have like just watched her like flourish like in school and see how like, what happened with her as she aged. But now we're going to a cult. I was like, okay, one of the most unrealistic things to happen, and that's what we choose. Moving on to book number 9 is going to be of that same series. This is book number 7. This is the very last book. Okay, so in this, they escape this cult. They escape the cult. Again, a second time. She escapes it a second time. Just gonna end that there. And then she ends up at home. She was pregnant with twins. She wakes up what is supposedly a couple days later, and she only has one of the babies. One of the babies died during birth. Because she had a traumatic birth previously. They were really shocked that she was able to carry to term. But the baby's like really big, really heavy. Baby is already smiling, cooing, has really good strong grip reflexes, and hardly wakes up at night, right? So she's thinking this is just like a couple days later, but this baby is huge. And at first she just kind of like plays it off. Like she just honestly thinks it's because of like the diet that she had, which was like the consuming of people. What made this baby like so extraordinary. And even like other people commented like, wow, this seems like a really big advanced baby for it being a couple days old, but she doesn't think like anything of it. And then it talks about where she like asks her dad's girlfriend like, what's going on, and she goes, I don't have permission to tell you. I have to ask Ace, which is her boyfriend, her baby daddy. And she's just like, what? Here's the thing. You think you would find out at the end what the hell's going on? Like what happened while she was passed out for a few days. It doesn't. Because then something tragic happens and now you don't find out. Now you don't find out. And that's how it ends, is you never find out. She literally just thinks that like everything is great. Everything is fine. She has her baby. It's great. No problem at all. And it literally just like ends there. And then it ends with like the uncle that she was having like that relationship with and took her to the compound was trying to like murder the whole family. And once the family finds out, like he like packs his bags and runs away. And they're setting off to find him. That's how it ends. What? You're literally leaving like so many cliffhangers. Like so many. And like you're not going to make any more books about it. So okay, all right. Moving on, next is going to be book 6, which was before that. Again, so this is where her and her boyfriend are going back to this cult because her dad went there. Because the head all be all wanted to know about the man who made the most perfect girl, which was the daughter. He thought she died. And so they go to his house one time. Why did they go there? Oh yeah, because the boyfriend got shot. Because he's a drug dealer. Drug deal gone bad. And they go there and there's like a note on the bed. Oh, I've gone to the cult. I hope to return. So she's like, oh no, I'm going. I'm getting him out. And the boyfriend's like, well, I'm coming with. And she's like, no, I don't think you understand. Like this place is really messed up. And he's like, no, I'm coming. So they like hide a gun in his sling from his like gunshot wound injury, and they like go there and they find out his dad is like is the doctor there. He is a doctor in real life too. It's the doctor there and the prophet, and he had like I guess anticipated her coming to find him because he told the guy that she would be reincarnated or come back from the dead. And then the guy saw her and he's obviously strung out. He's like, oh my gosh, she's back. But he's like, oh, who's this guy? And the prophet was like, I didn't know if this was actually going to come to truth, but this is the baby, because he had a baby with deicide that they murdered. Well, he did. Reincarnated the prince. And this guy is just like, yay. Okay, like it's just like the most like unbelievable stuff. Where I'm just like, oh, come on. It's just like the most just unbelievable stuff. And then it goes into like the downfall of like the cult, and then she passes out, which then brings us to book 7, which I mentioned. I don't know. Okay, so next up is going to be book number 5. I felt like this was a little bit more normal of a book than having to like talk about the cults and like the weird cliffhangers, because in this, she's back at home. Her dad has like restored her health because she was very, very sick. I'm trying not to spoil like the whole thing, so if you want to read this, go ahead. But if not, DM me over on Instagram and I can let you know, fill you in on the details, a little bit more of the details. But anyway, she comes back home. She's very angry with her father because she finds out like some truth and some lies that like he's been telling her his whole life. And she's upset about like the losses that she had at the cult. And so she runs away, she leaves, and she starts living in this motel. And she gets a job as a stripper like a block away. And so she's making tons of money. Things are going great. She's also doing like some side work. as well. And then that's when she meets the drug dealer, and she was already doing meth from the cult, which was book 4. So she was like, talking to him about, keeping her supply going. And then they formed a relationship. So I feel like that's like the most normal, is watching her like navigate how to like work, like figure out like the real world, with all of like the dark knowledge that you have, that your dad like trained into you, while also trying to form like a healthy relationship. And so for me, when I'm thinking of a book like Raised by a Killer, and we're going by each stage, this is what I'm expecting. Like, what is life really like? Not, I'm going to some freaking cult. I'm talking about like, what is life like? Like, what is it like to have a parent like that, where you get punished if you say like the wrong thing, or your animals get punished if you say the wrong thing, and trying to navigate like school and relationships and like your anger issues and like coming of age. Like, that's what I expected from this series, and like seeing her as an adult, not a cult. So that helped give it to me. Next up is going to be book number 3 from that series. I really did, again, this is when she is 16. This is when she's really starting to come of age. This is when she's starting to experience, people in school being mean, and like her desires and like what she wants to see for her life and her future. Whereas, and this one doesn't really mention a whole lot of the cult. It's at like the very, very end. I probably would rank this a little bit lower, just because like she does have a relationship with her uncle in this, and I'm just like, okay, all right, fine. It is what it is. Next up is not going to be from that series. I will mention the last 2 books here in a little bit, but the next book right here is going to be We Were Liars. So this is definitely, it's kind of marketed as a young adult book, like a youth book. But I had heard some people like talking about how they really liked this book, in like my like psychological thriller type book. So, there's only like 200 pages in here. No, yeah, 250 pages. I read this in like just a couple of days, while I was on vacation. Like it was super easy. So basically it's about this, teenage girl. Her parents have split up and divorced. Her mom has like a very, very rich family. Like the mom's, dad is just like wildly rich. Like he owns like a multi-million-dollar house. And so every summer, all of the kids and the grandpa, get together with their grandkids, and they come out to like this lake houses. And they've got multiple lake houses. They've got ones for like the grandma and grandpa, and one for each of the daughters and their children. And so that's where she meets, she plays around with some of her cousins. She meets somebody that becomes the love of her life. And then she suffers like a tragic accident in the water. And then it's like a few years before she's able to go back, because her parents were trying to keep her from that. So she's finally able to go back, and it's just kind of like talks about like trying to rebuild those relationships, while also trying to figure out what happened to her that night, because she can't really remember. The ending was really, really good. I don't think I was expecting that at all, actually. It didn't go exactly the way that I thought it was going to end, but I thought it was really good. It's a really easy, light read. I mean, again, it's just, super easy to read. And the ending was pretty good. So now we're going to go back to the Raised by a Killer series. So now we have book 2, which again, this is when she's 10 years old. This is when she's now in school. She's now figuring out like a routine, figuring out what can and can't be said, figuring out like the way of life. And so I find that very interesting. I thought like that was like a really good starting point for this book, is just a 10-year-old watching her father and helping her father get women into the home, so that a way they can like torture and like murder them. And then and then she's like given more responsibilities, and you like see like the more responsibilities that she's given, and how that like helps influence her more, and how more of her like acceptance of this type of lifestyle is going. That's just like very, very interesting. It's at the age of 10, which the third book is going to be the very first book, age 4. This was really, really interesting and drug me in. It starts off with her luring a woman to the house at a park. This is probably one of the more harder ones to read because she's a 4-year-old girl, and there is a lot of like child abuse and animal abuse in this, which sucks. But at the same time, like, if you just raised your kid normally while you're a serial killer, you don't want your kid to like tell on you. And then it's like a family affair. Like, grandpa did it, brothers do it, now they're raising her to like carry on. So it's just very interesting just to like see. And what I love about, like, especially like the first 2 books, I mean, all the books like have like her thoughts in her head, but as a kid or a product of the foster care system, just like thinking all the time about like how you need to follow the rules and you need to make sure that you're not getting in trouble. And like, I could honestly, as she was like thinking some of the things in her head, I also would have thought those same things at that age, at like age 4 or age 10. So it was kind of like an able to connect moment. So anyways, it was interesting. Like, this series, it was interesting. It's like the font's really big. It's like 140 pages a book. So it's a super easy, light read. Like, it's just super easy to like go through, read really quickly. But yeah. Okay. So moving on to the number 2 is going to be Where the Crawdads Sing. Oh, I love this book so much. This is a good book. I know it's coming out on a movie. I'm really excited to like see it when it drops, but the reading was so good. So this is about a girl named Kaya. They're considered like marsh people, where they're not very well educated. They're poor. People in the city like really just don't even want anything to do with them. She lives out there with her mom, siblings, and then one day her mom leaves because her dad drinks a lot and he's abusive. And then slowly over time, her siblings leave to get away from the abuse as well. So it's just her. She does learn how to kind of navigate through like the abuse and stuff, how to stay away. She doesn't ever go to school. She doesn't ever dress nicely because eventually she's working to get all the stuff for herself. She's like a very young girl, like 10, 12. I think it was about 10. When her dad finally leaves and just like never comes back. And so she's like having to figure out how to get money and how to take care of herself. She doesn't want to go to another family. She doesn't want to go to school, anything like that. So she just learns the way of the land. She falls in love with this guy who eventually goes off to college and just leaves her. So then she meets another guy who again like treats her very badly. A few years later, there is a murder in the town and everybody accused her of the murder. So then you go on to like the trial and they talk about like the evidence, and they talk about, how the town is just so prejudiced against her being this marsh girl that it would just be easy to point fingers at her than it would be anybody else. So it just like goes through the trial. At the end, the trial ends. You figure out what happens to her in the afterlife, and I just thought it was just very, very good. It was very interesting. It was just eye-opening. You're just talking about like prejudices, especially like in the 1950s and 60s, what it's like to have to be like a little girl, just like raising yourself based on what the knowledge that you do have, which is very limited in and of itself. So I just thought that was a very good read. It's definitely not one where it's like a psychological thriller. There are some twists and turns along the way, but it's a really good book. I would definitely recommend that. Okay, number 1. My number 1 book is this from Ann Rule called Small Sacrifices. This is like a 500-page book. It's a 500-page book. It is a 500-page book. I could not put this down. Here's why. This is a true story. This is a true crime story. You can look this up on Google. It is about the case of Elizabeth Diane Downs. She prefers to go by Diane Downs, so a lot of the time she's called that, but her real name is Elizabeth Diane Downs. And it talks about the case of where she claims that she was out just leisurely strolling, going for a drive with her children, and a man approached and shot the 3 kids and shot her. And one of the kids died. 2 of the kids survived with lifelong lasting injuries, and she was shot in her left arm. Remember, she's right-handed, in her left arm with it just barely scraped. scraped it. She just had to get some pins and a metal plate in. And it goes through like the night she showed up in the ER, how bizarre she acted. It talks about all of her like love affairs and how the one that she couldn't ever seem to get over, he stated he didn't want any kids. That's not something that he wanted. She made notes about this in like diaries, and just like the way that she just acted, like she never acted sad or remorseful that like her children died. Instead, she tried to say like she was this great mom, and like there's just so much mounting evidence that like she did it, and she did not care about her kids at all. She was more worried about like how she's being perceived in the book, and she cares more about that relationship with that guy than she does her children. It's just so wild, because like the rest of them are fiction, right? So it's just kind of like, oh, that's wild, but like this happened, and it's wild. It is just absolutely wild to just like go through, hear all the testimony, all the evidence, wow, and just like her just like narcissism in the book completely. And then she like goes, when she is waiting for trial, she wants to be able to see more, like they couldn't throw her in jail, so she traps a man into getting her pregnant, because then they think, oh, I have this baby, I can just replace my other kids with this baby, and they're gonna find me not guilty, because I'm just such a good mom and whatever. Okay. Anyways, wild. It talks about it's good. It's good if you're into like true crime and just like listening to like both sides of the story, and like having like the person that's being charged just try to like play it off, or try to have it where like she's fantastic, she's this wonderful woman, wonderful mom, but like all the evidence is like, you're not, but like you're not. It's wild. I would definitely recommend that. All right, so that is ranking the last 10 books that I read. I love doing this. I love reading books. I'm already getting started on another book. I literally just finished that series yesterday, and now I'm already starting on another one. Love reading. Can't go without reading. If you guys enjoyed this and want me to keep doing this, please let me know, because books just like make me so happy. I just do. I know I'm mostly a makeup channel, but again, makeup makes me, like, books make me really happy as well, and I love being able to talk about them. I love reading a new book. So let me know what you guys think of this little series down below. It's not going to be like a super common thing, but you know, as soon as I can read 10 books, we'll move on to the next. Alright, that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoy. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That helps me out. That helps my channel out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Click the little bell so you can join this Dumpster Fire family and be notified of all my future uploads. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye!